My brother is an idiot and has made my life a nightmare for as long as I can remember. I gray rocked him as soon as I understood the concept and have had no contact since he moved out of my parents' house. My sister was getting married. I checked to see if he was invited. He was. I RSVP'd my regrets. My sister and parents came to talk me into attending. I said heck no. They promised me that he would be on his best behavior. I said no. They begged. I said no. They asked if there was anything they could do to convince me to go. I said that if they gave me $1,000 each, I would return it if he left me alone. They said no. I said good day. They came back with $2,000 in an envelope. I was at the wedding venue with my wife, talking to my parents, when my brother arrived. He came right over and called me a slur for a gay person. My dad's head just dropped. I took my wife's hand and we went out for a night, which was paid for by my parents and sister. We were already dressed, so we had a fancy night out with our phones off. My parents and sister are furious at my brother. He's mad because my dad told him he's a child who can't control himself. My brother's angry at me for being a baby and not being able to take a joke. I really don't care. $2,000 isn't a lot of money, but it's enough to sting. Now maybe they'll listen when I say I don't want to be around him. My mom, however, is mad at me for taking the money. She seemed to think I was being paid to put up with his abuse. I've tried explaining that it was more of a bond on his behavior. She won't listen. Am I the idiot for leaving my sister's wedding, but keeping the bribe I was paid to attend? Not the idiot. Did your brother leave you alone? No. Was he on his best behavior? Heck no. You kept your end of the bargain. They didn't. And I guess we know the parent who enabled your brother all these years. Mom seems to think I was being paid to put up with his abuse. Screw off, Mom. Yep, OP got paid to give him a chance, and you did. He blew that chance the moment he walked in. Unfortunately, OP's parents aren't likely to make the brother responsible for that $2,000. The brother can go on blissfully pretending that none of this is his problem because the mother refuses to lay the blame where it belongs. God forbid her golden child should have to behave himself or suffer any consequences. I'm wondering if Mom even bothered to tell the brother to cut his crap for the duration of the wedding. The way he immediately made a beeline for OP when he arrived makes me think she did, and Bro thought it would be hilarious to do what he did because there would be no consequences for him, because nobody tells him what to do. I'm kind of surprised Sis wanted him at the wedding. OP might be his favorite target, but he's a liability anyway. My guess for why they wanted Bully Boy at the wedding is the same reason they were willing to pay OP $2,000 to attend. Appearances, happy family and all that BS. Honestly, I feel sorry for your sister. Good for you for asking for an idiot deposit. Make clear that this was a tax on them for constantly dismissing your concerns and insisting you tolerate his abuse for their sakes by pretending he won't do it. You know it's BS. They know it's BS, but they want you to pay the price to pretend to have a happy family. I, 23 male, just had my birthday this past Sunday. I celebrated partly by meeting up with my aunt, 45, for brunch. My aunt and I share our birthday and have always spent at least part of the day together. It's a tradition that's really important to both of us. A couple of weeks ago, my girlfriend, 23, said she wanted to throw me a birthday party, especially since now we have enough fun money to spend on something like that. I said that would be great, but it probably couldn't be on my birthday day, since I was meeting my aunt for brunch and then had to go into work early the next day, so an evening party would have to end early too. We then had a long discussion that turned into an argument over whether to have a celebration on the actual day. It became clear that she wanted me to reschedule brunch, which was my line. I told her that the time with my aunt on our birthday is more important to me than spending it with anyone else. Part of her reason for having it that day was that a few friends would be in town, but not the following weekend. I told her part of the reason why it matters, which is that my aunt was a twin, and her twin died when they were teenagers. Their birthday was hard for her, and then when I was unexpectedly born on the same day, I was premature. It made the day easier for her to handle. She never put all that on me as a kid, but told me when I was an adult how grateful she was that we were birthday buddies and that it had felt like a blessing. My aunt is a fantastic lady, and I've always loved sharing our birthdays. I was even more glad when she told me all of that. When I told this all to my girlfriend, though, her first reaction was that it was messed up that your aunt uses you as an emotional crutch and that you're a grown man who can make his own plans. My feelings must have shown on my face because she tried to backtrack or qualify her statement, but I wasn't having it. I told her there was no need to throw me a birthday party. I ended up having brunches planned with just me and my aunt, and then my parents had a cookout with a lot of our family there. I didn't invite my girlfriend, and when I explained why, my family was split. They all agreed that what she said wasn't nice or true, but some thought it wasn't kind to exclude her from my birthday entirely when it had clearly mattered to her. She and I have hung out both before and after my birthday, and there's tension there. Part of me wants to address it, but I don't feel bad about what I did, so I don't know if bringing it up would do much good. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. That was a power move on her part. She could have planned it at another time. She could have done something simple for the two of you that evening. Part of honoring a person on their birthday is being considerate of what they want. She wanted what she wanted and disregarded your feelings on the one day that should be about you. I hope you find a better partner. I mean, look at one of her justifications. You're a grown man who can make his own plans. Darn right he is. And as such, she should respect the fact that he said, "This day doesn't work for me. I already have plans." I mean, goodness, how clear does he have to be? Her response was cruel at best. The fact that you excluded her from an important celebration tells me you've already broken up in your mind. Make the split official and find someone who shares your values. Everyone's the idiot. What she said was definitely idiotic, but I agree with your family members that you should have included her in your family birthday plans. Is this supposed to be a punishment? She's not a child, nor are you. It's not your place to discipline her. She's your partner. If you want to move forward with her, why would you deliberately do something that could create a wedge in your relationship? If you want a future with her, it's not to your benefit to do something that has the potential to foster resentment. Also, you're being immature for not talking about it. My wife, 35, and I, 36 male, went to a bar last weekend for drinks and dancing. When we got inside, I told my wife I needed to use the restroom and gave her some cash to buy us drinks. After I used the restroom, I found her at the bar with our drinks, and she was chatting with another man. I have no issues with this. I approached my wife, grabbed my drink, and tried to join the conversation. I felt so awkward standing there, as this guy had no idea who I was, and my wife didn't introduce me. So I stick out my hand to introduce myself as her husband, and the guy just blankly stares at me and gives me a limped wrist handshake. My wife and the other guy continue conversing and discussing their favorite bars in the neighborhood. I felt like a third wheel there, and my voice was being ignored. I decided to leave those two to talk, and I approached these two women, also sitting across the bar, and made a friendly conversation. The one was wearing a band t-shirt from one of my favorite bands, so we talked about that. My wife saw this and began giving me the death stare. She then left the guy at the bar and pulled me away from those two women. It was quite awkward. My wife and I discussed what happened. I explained that I felt like a third wheel with her and this guy at the bar. They were ignoring the things I said, and she didn't even introduce me when I came up to them. I wanted to have some fun conversing with some new people like she was doing, so I started talking to the two women at the bar. I told my wife that she and I were speaking with that guy, and that I was speaking with the two women, which was the same situation, except she didn't even try to join my conversation. It's not like we were discussing anything inappropriate, literally just music, specifically that band the woman wore a t-shirt of. We've discussed this at length, and she claims they were totally different situations because I had to approach those women where she was already seated and the guy approached her. I'm over this situation and ready to move on, but my wife cannot let it go and has been giving me the cold shoulder since that night. So, am I the idiot in this situation? Not the idiot. She didn't introduce you as her husband. The guy would have moved on if she wasn't excluding you. Her reaction in basically ignoring you for him encouraged him. It took you talking to other women for her to finally stop talking to the guy. Well played, says this happily married woman of over 25 years. LOL. Agreed. She's butthurt that her hypocrisy was pointed out. I've been sitting in a bar while my boyfriend was in the restroom and been approached by a man who decided to strike up a conversation. When my boyfriend got back and stood by us, I slipped my arm around his waist, looked up, smiled, and kissed him, so the other guy could make no mistake about what was happening. I didn't introduce them because I had no idea what this guy's name was, but there was no doubt in anyone's mind as to who I was with. It's pretty easy. Yep, this man's wife is lacking super hard, almost like she doesn't care. Very sad thing to see. And then she had the audacity to get mad at him for talking to another woman after she was basically ignoring him in this conversation with the other dude. Yikes is all I have to say. I, a 25-year-old female, just moved into a neighborhood a couple of weeks ago, and so far it's been very peaceful. From the neighbors who have approached me, everyone's been very friendly and welcoming, which I really appreciate since I'm not from around the town. I have noticed that some neighbors have been having frequent parties the last couple of weeks, but I chalked it up to celebration since I know one neighbor's daughter just graduated high school and July 4th is coming up. I've been to some of these parties to get to know the other neighbors better, and one person who really stands out to me is this one neighbor, Melinda, not her actual name. At a neighbor's party, she came up to me and introduced herself, and we talked for a while. This was when I learned about the newest neighbor party. Apparently, the newest neighbor is supposed to throw a grand party, show off their home, and entertain the neighborhood as a whole thing. Melinda told me since I was the newest neighbor, it was my duty to. I thought Melinda was joking when she told me this, as it didn't make sense to me, and I laughed. This seemed to make Melinda a little angry, and she said she was serious, that it was a tradition in the neighborhood, and I had 2 weeks to host a party. This was 2 weeks ago. Yesterday was the day I was supposed to do this tradition, but I happily stayed in bed. Melinda and a couple of neighbors came and rang the doorbell, but I ignored them and enjoyed binge-watching childhood shows. I decided to go outside today, and Melinda came up to me furious, saying that I didn't do the tradition and that I was being a bad neighbor. However, I asked some other people about this tradition, and they've heard some people do it, but mostly never really mentioned it to be a recurring thing that each new person in a neighborhood should do. I told Melinda that I wouldn't be throwing any party anytime soon, as I didn't feel comfortable with people coming into my home, let alone me having to entertain them. Melinda got angry, saying that the neighborhood was like a big family, and stormed off. I let it go, but the neighbors with Melinda at my house that night have been telling me I should have just done the party and that I'm leaving a bad impression. I think my reason is justified, but I'm not really sure. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Look, I love a neighborhood with a good, friendly community. It helps make the world a better place when people are kind to each other and help. But some people like Melinda take it way too far. A person should host a party and open their home because they want to, not because they've been voluntold to do so. This is ridiculous. Are there places like this? Is this a sitcom? I bought my house several years ago and still haven't met my neighbors. I recognize every dog in their general neighborhood, but I wouldn't recognize them without their dog or outside of their car-to-door travels. Anyway, no, you don't need to do anything like throw a party. But neighborhood bullying isn't supposed to be tolerated either, right? You all need to stop with the whole outsider/West Side Story nonsense going on here. If the neighborhood is like a family, then the home is like the bedroom. If you do not have permission to enter, then you should not enter. And locking the door is also allowed in this family scenario. No is an answer. Update. Melinda came up to me. I thought since she didn't bother me yesterday, today would be the same, but it wasn't. I got out of my car and I saw Melinda ringing my doorbell like crazy and knocking hard. I got out of my car and asked her what she was doing. She looked at me, just looked angry, and demanded an apology. I asked her an apology for what happened, and she said that I was going around asking people about the tradition, and that if I felt so highly about it, I should just do it like everyone else has. I think she's crazy. I told her to get off my property and leave me alone. I just left her outside because I didn't want to deal with her. But I heard something fall outside and went to check a few minutes later, and she kicked my plant. I guess we're in a war thing now. But who kicks plants out of rage? When I was 16 years old, my girlfriend broke up with me. I was pathetic and begged her to change her mind. I thought I was in love and couldn't be without her. I was an idiot. I'm 25 now, and I've promised myself I will never do that again. I've had several relationships and a few hookups, and when they ended, I'm sad but not weak. I've been with my girlfriend for a year and a half. We met at a social function for people in our line of work. We hit it off and started seeing each other more often, then made it exclusive. Recently, we have been talking about moving in together. Our city's expensive, and we thought we could save some money. Her apartment is bigger than mine, but I own mine, so we were working stuff out. Last weekend, out of nowhere, she said that we were moving too fast. Okay, no problem. We have yet to make any plans that have yet to be undone. She said she wanted to break up because she wasn't sure I was all in. I said, okay. Then she freaked out. Apparently, it was a test to see if I would fight for her. Yeah, I don't do that anymore, and I do not appreciate mind games. So I told her I would box up anything of hers that might be at my place, and she could pick it up. She accused me of being a cold-hearted idiot who was only using her for intimacy. I wasn't. I thought we had a future. I wasn't ready to propose, but I thought she was the one. We met each other's families, and she spent Christmas with me. My parents and sister love her. I loved her. My mom and dad called me to ask me what was going on, and I told them. They think I'm being stubborn. My little sister says I'm being a complete jerk for not forgiving my ex. I remember crying myself to sleep over a girl, and I refused to do it again. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, and she failed OP's biggest test of verifying if she was marriage material. Fighting for a relationship only works if you're both fighting together. Testing each other is toxic. It's not part of a healthy relationship at all. If someone tells you that they're done with you, you don't fight for them. You trust this adult person to know what they want and respect their decision. Exactly. Fighting for a relationship is something that happens when you recognize that there are problems or that the relationship is heading in a direction you don't want. If you want to make it work, you make the effort to make changes so that both partners can be happier in the relationship. It's not something that happens when one partner has already declared a relationship is over. She didn't want to take responsibility for her actions and shifted the blame onto you, OP, to make herself feel better. And screw your family's opinions too. It's not them that had to deal with being told that you're breaking up as a test. She messed around and found out, and now it backfired. She's trying to blame you.